Well, a very good morning again to those that have just joined us here on BTM Television. This is the Daybreak, the show that kick-starts off your day with the biggest highlights, fresh information, both politics, economics, social affairs, and also entertainment. But of course, like I did promise earlier on, at the hour of 8, we do hold a topical discussion, and that is internalizing on matters of national importance. But when we speak matters of national importance, today we are discussing matters of the fourth estate, and that is the media, as we did celebrate the World Press Freedom Day yesterday, where we did get to see several press conferences being held by different journalist groups in Uganda, from parliament up to the small journalists or the individual journalists in Uganda, as they were celebrating their day and of course advocating for their rights that seem to have continuously been not respected by the security operatives, even by other individuals. But as we will be discussing today, I'm privileged to host the General Secretary of the Uganda Journalists Association, and that is none other than Mr. Chirunda Emmanuel. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you for making time for us today morning.
I thank God and thank you for serving our people.
Okay. Well, to begin with the discussion, you are a journalist. How did you celebrate yesterday? How did you spend your yesterday? How did you mark the World Press Freedom Day?
Thank you very much. Good morning, our viewers, once again. And it's my humble privilege to have been hosted on this great media house. I am humbled for sure. Now to start with yesterday, which was 3rd of May, we held commemoration. Should I call it celebration? Because sometimes it's hard for you to say in Uganda to call it celebrations, given given the issues at stake, the sticky issues against this profession. But whatever it is, we commemorated that day yesterday in the way of observing prayers, in the way of holding a press conference. What viewers need to know, first of all, before I let you know how we commemorated, they also need to know what is all about this day. World Press Freedom Day was as a result of the death of some journalists in Namibia in 1991 in Windy Hawk. So following their death, the UN General Assembly deemed it necessary to declare that day international. And in 1993, so it was declared as an international Press Freedom Day, purposely to advance press freedom, purposely to create a sense of environment for media players. Have a reflection of what press, their profession, of what actually undermine their profession. Governments to be mindful of their commitments to protection of press freedom, freedom of expression, with regard to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and national constitutions, because you are aware that our national constitutions are in line with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So that's where the National Press Freedom Day comes. Governments to be reminded of their commitment, of their duty, and then journalists also to sit down and reflect of what bothers them, of where they should go, and then how they should get out of what's affecting the profession. Okay. Now, yesterday we held prayers at the Uganda Journalists Association home in Kawempe, and we had prayers from 3 religious leaders. The concept was there should have been 5. One from the SDA, Seventh-day Adventist Church. Another one from the Anglican Church community, which is Church of Uganda. Another one from the Pentecostal community, which you call local churches. Yes. Another one from the Muslim community, and then from the Catholic community. But the 2, one from SDA and Anglican, they were not able to join us due to emergency issues. But the 3 turned up, and they presided over this prayer. Suffice to note also is that we were joined by the chairperson of the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Media, the Honorable Teddy Namboze, who yesterday also made presentation to the Parliament with regard to issues that are affecting this profession. So the day was very, very colorful for us yesterday. There was also a joint press statement which was issued highlighting violations that have been occasioned on journalists.
Now, Mr. Chirunda, before we dive into that press statement that was released,
yes,
I would like to, first put it to you, the leader, one of the leaders of the journalists in Uganda. Do we have press, rather do the press in Uganda, experience matters of freedom? Do we have freedom as journalists in Uganda?
Thank you very much. The theme, actually, which I had not told you is that, the theme for this year was shaping the future of human rights, freedom of expression as the driver of other rights. Now, you are asking me that, do you have freedoms anyway in Uganda? As journalists, I should say that yes, I should say no. Why? In Article 29 of the Constitution, journalists are given, they're allowed to exercise their profession. They are allowed to express themselves. That freedom is highlighted in there. And which is why maybe we are here talking about on a few things, holding those cameras, recorders and whatnot. But the question is that the Constitution grants us the freedom of expression. We come and express ourselves. But what happens after that expression? Because I may express myself in the way which the state or the government, deems not to be well with them. What happens if I came and criticized, for instance, the regime? Should I say there is freedom of expression? No, because we have seen some of our colleagues, getting arrested, having been critical to the regime, having been critical to the system. So that then tells us that the freedom of expression as enshrined in there is unrealistic. To some extent, I should say, there is freedom. To the other, I should say, there isn't.
Which one defeats the other? Because let's put them on a weighing scale. Freedom is there, freedom is not there. Which one weighs more than the other?
The one which weighs more than the other is the negative bit.
That is, there is no freedom.
There is no freedom. There is no freedom. Because even the freedom of, it is the Constitution. Freedom, right. There are many rights that are, highlighted in there, in various articles or different articles. Right to dignity,
right to life,
right to life,
right to own property,
right, or you see, you understand it. But now, let me give you an example. For example, right to dignity, human dignity. I mean, you have been around here, just like I've been. You have seen how the members of security forces, when it comes for, you know, enforcing arrests, how they arrest citizens, including journalists. I mean, they arrest you in the manner which does not in any way, I mean, explain whether you are a human being or otherwise. We have seen how these men in uniform behave during demonstrations. Moreover, demonstrations are provided for in the Constitution. We have seen how they behave. The other day in Mulago, in last month in April,
they made going time strike.
2 journalists, Mr. Isan of Francis and Mr. Thomas Chitimbo. I mean, were sprayed with, you know, pepper spray. They were holding cameras, covering a demonstration, which demonstration they had been called to provide coverage. That's their, you know, that's their field of work, from which they derive a living. Just like this police officer works as a police officer and earns. But in the end, we are seeing one police officer, Mr. Ogwa Yeko, holding a spray and then spray someone. Now, where is dignity there? Now, where is the respect for the freedom of humanity? I mean, this has not happened to journalists alone. The Constitution allows freedom of assembly. But if journalists announced a peaceful demonstration, I wonder whether it will be allowed. The Constitution allows, the court, Constitutional Court, has pronounced itself, but the police still does not allow people to assemble. So where are the freedoms?
So, well, to be clear, the court did pronounce itself on the rights or the freedom of expression in a famous case of Charles Onyango Obo. So hopefully, you know, the dear viewer, you can relate to that. The journalists can also relate to that case. But Mr. Thomas, looking at, you know, the matters defeating the world press freedom or Uganda press freedom, what are some of the challenges that are, you know, continuously being experienced by journalists in Uganda?
Mr. Bruce, I can tell you, I can share with you a litany of challenges.
Please share those challenges.
As we speak right now, like I told you, this is the day. This is the day for which a lot of reflection is done. There is a challenge. Actually, there is blatant variation of economic rates. Let me be specific here. Well, our Constitution in Article 40 and Article 40, or in Article 40, provides for a profession. It seems, I mean, it is a mystery when it comes to practice. Journalism is a profession, just like, you know, law or medicine, accounting,
being an engineer.
But the way these economic rates have been observed, I mean, seems to be mysterious. I will give you an example. We had a case of the CTV, and let me use this platform. CTV. There is that CTV. Let me call them children. Close to 80 children. Children, I refer to journalists. Close to 80 children had been sacked, Actually, they had worked for 1 year, over 12 months, without receiving their due payments, without receiving their wages. More than 1 year. Imagine, how does one survive? So, the proprietor, Mr. Brutus Kahingo, kept on encouraging them. Let's work as a team. We will get there, as you may be aware. And they worked. So time comes when they are told, please go back home. And why? Because the station is not earning as it should have, earned. And he promises to pay, to clear the areas for that period. During that period, he couldn't also fulfill the law requirements, remittances of NSSF and other related, But at the end of it all, now, it's the man who tells them, I'll pay you. And it's the man who goes behind their back and sells the station. As we speak right now, that station had been sold to one city pastor. Transfers for broadcasting rights had been completed. But the thing is, look at that, scenario. About 80 people. They have worked for more than a year. They have not been paid. They have children. They have families. I mean, they have needs, just like you do. So as we speak right now, that issue bothers us a lot. Economic rights. Journalists, they are paid poorly. We are paid poorly. Journalists are paid poorly. Some employers who pay, they pay poorly. Or those who pay, they pay lowly. They don't pay reasonably. You understand? So that cannot allow someone to professionally execute their mandates, to execute their work.
Does this
Which
now
is why this issue of extortionism has propped up.
That is what I wanted to go to. Does this explain the reason as to why we are continuously experiencing, unprofessionalism? Because when you look at, the way journalism is being done, because we are the people that are supposed to be asking the hard questions to, maybe the leaders that we do have in the community, to the community, we are supposed to be asking those hard questions. Have we failed to, do our job? We are constantly seeing journalists being engaged in politics, Have we failed at doing our duty? And in a wider perspective, let it not only be to the people that are not being paid. There are those that are being paid. So put it in a wider perspective. Have we failed at doing our job?
We have not failed as journalists, but I will blame the government and I will blame the employers. Why? Because government plays a critical, role in the society. It creates environment that indeed favors execution of and exercising of,
the rights,
the rights and yes.
Everything. Yeah.
But again, now our government seems to be unbothered. For example, in 2019, that previous parliament passed a bill which is minimum wage amendment bill. There was another bill which is employment amendment, that seeks to amend the Employment Act of 2006. But this bill of minimum wage sets out at least the minimum wage
an employee is supposed to be getting.
Yes. It was passed successfully, sent to the President, His Excellence, to append his signature. So it becomes a law. Up to now, that bill has never been assented to. we don't know what's happening with Employment Amendment Act. Employment Amendment Act had some good things. For example, you cannot employ as an employee someone for 6 months as casual or on a casual, basis. You cannot employ, these female, employees or journalists, and they're not able to breastfeed, their children. There should be those facilities for them. But we don't know what's happening. We wonder whether there is even the will by our leaders to allow, these legislations come through. So, which is why I say I blame the government. Now, with employers, these are actors who assume licenses on, initiation of these, employment ventures or media houses. They are granted, they start off. But again, their obligations when you are being licensed. I will do A, B, C, D. I will not do A, B, C, D. Have they fulfilled their obligations? Have they performed their responsibilities to the latter? That's the question. Which is why they also receive the blame. So with that, I cannot say that journalists have failed. Because they are employed by employers, because they are being supervised by the government as the main regulator. But before you come in, very finally, we are worried. Why? Because if you cannot pay journalists quite well, if you cannot, allow them to work in an environment that favor and suits their work, then this profession is going to die. Why? If someone is not paid, then they will look for other alternative ways for survival. They will be extortionists. They will turn into masqueraders. They will turn into fraudsters. And this is very bad. So these ethics, or in quotes, journalists shall not be paid for story. A journalist shall not be done to A, B, C, D. They will remain on paper because people have to survive. If you cannot pay, then journalism is no more in the near future.
You see, Mr. Chunda, when you're looking at journalism in Uganda and vis-a-vis the statistics of the youth, that is 78% of the population in Uganda, fall to be the youth. And looking at journalism these days, we have the youth dominating, the practice of journalism. And this now brings in matters of unemployment. How is the factor of unemployment contributing to, the continuous suffering of the journalism profession? Has this, the will to be employed now, forced us to forego the, the requirements supposed to be fulfilled by our employers?
Young people, there are very many in this profession. True. Correct. One of the reasons as to why we are experiencing entries of the new blood in larger quantities is that the old blood, the old guards, they are bowing out. Why are they bowing out? The profession, they are bowing out due to some of the, issues that are, hinted on in a while ago. The issues of welfare, which is not good. The welfare here, I refer to contractual, issues. I refer to wage payments. I refer to the ambience within which the operations are executed. All those things. So the old guards are bowing out because they need to look for where greener pastures are. when you entered, or if someone, let me give you this example. Now, me, I am married with children, but many years ago, I was a boy. Let me call myself a boy. I was a boy. I was living alone. Now, if someone who entered in this profession as a boy, now has a wife, now has children goes to school, I mean, has a family, which has to be supported on a daily. How do you expect that person to remain somewhere they're not able to sustain, I mean, their family? Of course, the end point, or the end result will be, taking a leave. True. So which is why we are seeing newcomers and the young people, which is why we are seeing them. But when time comes and they feel they cannot, live anymore in this profession, then they have to look for other, alternative, sources of survival.
Now,
but this is not so good to us who passionately went and pursued this noble profession, which is why we are saying, actually, we had written a letter to the Minister of Information as Uganda Journalists Association. We told him that, look, there are cases of blatant violation. There is a radio station called Success FM in Chanja. The owner is a pastor. He fired journalists in December. Actually, over 90 journalists were sacked. They were laid off. But this man, among the 9 that were laid off, there was a lady, Miss Bena Nantumbwe. Bena Nantumbwe had a medical, issue. She needed to seek urgent attention, but she did not have money. And what happened? She went somewhere. They worked on her, but in the end, I mean, things were not okay. So she had to seek a referral for another facility. But, I mean, he was unbothered. He was unbothered. We went and then visited her. She nearly died. But this is the gentleman now who pastors the church. He pastors the church, is a proprietor. Others were fired. So we wrote to Mr. Chris Bariomunsi, highlighting violations. And then asking him as a line minister to act, because he has got those powers. The UCC falls under that ministry. I mean, the whole sector, right? So he has deliberately chosen to keep quiet. So we had informed him in that letter that if nothing happens, then we will mobilize nationwide, demonstrations and protests, because we have written to the ministry. The ministry has chosen to keep quiet. We have written to the parliament. We are seeing nothing. And ministry is government, is cabinet. We have gone to parliament. I mean, so it looks like, I mean, we have no solutions.
Now,
which is why we turned to God even in prayers yesterday.
Yeah,
because we've gone everywhere.
Mr. Chuna, looking at all these factors, the violence, the economic distress you're talking about, all the factors, all the challenges facing journalism, and they are now out there in the public. The public does, get aware of this through the conversations like these we are having. Now, what is the motivation for the young journalists out there that wants to join the profession? What remains for them?
Okay, me, I'm a believer. I am a servant of God. I'm not like these servants of God who speak
and do something different.
Yes. So this is it. I am not discouraging the incoming,
journalists
or media practitioners. No. But you see, I should say there is no perfect world. Even in law, there are issues. Even in medicine, there are issues, right? But when we talk about these things, all what we're intending to realize is, I mean, an improvement. Is to realize, you know, an environment which will allow you and your children and your children's children
practice journalism.
Yes. So now, colleagues who are coming in, I am not saying that journalism is bad, because it is a calling. But these are challenges that we are fighting. There are also those who are in journalism, but what we're talking of, I mean, is history to them. It doesn't happen. That one is also there. But to a larger extent, these challenges do exist, and we are fighting tooth and nail, and we are fighting very hard to have them resolved, to have them cured, because it is out of that we will be able to have, one, the government realize its dream of having a prosperous society by 2040, as highlighted in its NDP, yes, 3 agenda. So you cannot achieve the socio-economic transformation when the various sectoral players are crying, when they're incapable economically. So we are saying that because government also earns taxes, earns revenue from this sector of journalism, from this sector of communication. So if at all you're able to earn, you know, revenue, then give an ear to what you know hurts them.
Could this be attributed to the COVID-19 effect? Even have journalists now recovered from the COVID-19 effect? The media houses, have they recovered?
Partially, it is attributable to what you've said, but even before the arrival of COVID, some of these challenges have been around. For example, is it COVID that compel the army officers or police officers to beat or to bat?
Definitely, that would be a different case.
It's a different case. Is it COVID that tells RDCs to go and raid media houses? I wonder whether it is COVID that tells them that you go and switch off a transmitter. But COVID, with regard to economics, yes, because it is not Uganda alone which is in it or which has been in it. But yeah, we are starting to see recovery. Businesses are coming back, not in journalism alone, but also in other sectors. They are coming up. But I believe that by grace of God, these issues, we will get to a point when these issues have been cured.
Okay, now when we speak COVID-19, Uganda did of course experience the pandemic for quite, you know, a good number of years, and this did see in, you know, the major focus now being shifted from not only, you know, being on television, radios, to also now being put on social media. How is social media playing in? How's, you know, social media blending in with the journalism of radios, TVs, and whatsoever?
Social media is a good venture, although, okay, it has the positive side and then the negative side. It really impacts the media arena with its, you know, coming the traditional media like TV, newspapers, and then radio have not remained the same. This is where we are seeing now people breaking the news.
Each and every one breaks news.
Each and every one. No critical assessment, no critical evaluation. I mean, which is the case with the traditional media. Because they're breaking news, because they're able to lay out the information. Now, the traditional media has also been tempted to fall into the trap to a certain extent. It's like we are seeing social media experiencing sort of competition
with the mainstream media.
So with that, we are seeing the traditional media not being the same. Social media, I think, now I will give you an example. Now we have many online sites. They are carrying, you know, stories, they are carrying information. How often do you read newspapers? How often do you sit down and read newspapers?
Definitely the time reduced, totally.
But then you're always with your phone, right? So you can see where we've gone. So that one alone now, the fact that you're on your phone, the fact that you are exploring, you know, information using, electronically. I wonder whether now the print media is able to generate income the way it should ideally have generated. So that one is a great, you know, effect paused. Even TVs, we are seeing YouTube channels, we are seeing, so the adverts that were originally coming to
TVs.
Some are diverted to, because they are diverted to those now electronic sites, the YouTube, the TikTok, the whatever. So I think it affects the media, the traditional media. All that needs to be done is that I think to sit and have a rethink of how to work in coexistence with social media, because it cannot go back. It is around.
Yeah. Now we should be speaking, you know, solutions as we have just a few minutes to the end of the show. But specifically, looking at the interests of journalists. I'm a journalist, I have my own interest. You are a journalist, you have your own interest. He is a journalist, he has his own or her own interests. How do we stop our own interests from, you know, affecting the work that we do? How do we stop our own, you know, interests from, you know, deterring, you know, us staying true to our job?
Number one, like I told you, I believe in God. I trust in God. And what actually drives me, I mean, the values that drive my life, I mean, they're entirely, I mean, connected to God. Number one, are we able as journalists to respect the leadership in place? Because every society has got a leader, has got leadership. Are we able to respect, you know, the leadership in place? Because it is out of, you know, respecting, you know, administration that we're able to have our interests, I mean, catered for collectively. Individual interests, I think every man has got their own individual interests. You cannot take that one away. But what terms these interests is these restraints we are seeing. For example, we have leaders in societies, or leadership in society, which leadership has do's and then don'ts. So are we able to respond to those do's and don'ts? It is by us having response to them that we're able to tame the interests, because they are there. Everyone is interested in something. That one is there. It is part of humanity. But I think subjection to the administration is what is very important. But I encourage us, and I will again call upon journalists that we have got also challenges amongst us. If, for example, someone does not want to accept that this one I don't know, I need to learn. And then it's very hard for you to get where you are aspiring to get. So can we sit down and learn? Can we sit down and reflect and have self-reflection? This is a profession which requires people to be informed, to be able to inform. So have we learned that we have that capacity to inform? Or we haven't? So if you reflect and you realize that my lessons are still wanting, then sit down and then learn. Accept those who know than you to school you, to educate you. But I still have some people who pretend to have knowledge, yet it is totally opposite. Me, I will encourage us to also, you know, trust in God, because if you have the fear of God in you, there are certain things which you don't do. You will not solicit bribes. You will not fleece people of their money or property. I mean, you move in the way that is not tainted with immorality. So this is very important. Let us sit down and learn. Let us sit down and respect authorities. Let us sit down and you know,
respect for God and immorality.
Yes.
But now there I have my point that I would like to, you know, get your point of view as the Uganda Journalism Association, the UJA, that you know, very many journalists fall in. We do fall into, you know, that, you know, association. What is UJA doing to realize the rights of the journalists in Uganda? You know, because one would pose a question, you know, for us to respect the leadership that we have in place. Are they able to lead the journalists to, you know, being in a society that is, you know, full of freedom to exercise their career?
Okay, now what you just done, number one, as we speak right now, we have cases in court. There is a case against UCC. UCC had directed media owners to sack their employees, 39 of them. I will not go into media details of media houses. So UJA went to court, and then that case is there. UPDF, we saw soldiers in 2021 beating journalists at Kololo there or here, to the office of the Human Rights Commission. They were badly beaten. Now what we did, we went to court. In enforcement of our rights, we went to court. There is a case there, and I should tell you that I can tell you that we are waiting for the ruling. It is on notice. We accused individual officers. We accused the Attorney General, the CDF. So that case is there. There is another case where one general, Matayo Chaligonza, you know, beat a UBC journalist, Mr. Peter Otai. We went also to court. That case is there. There is this Computer Misuse Act. For that one, we did not go to court because there are many actors who had gone. But we had written an article with the Commonwealth. It featured in Commonwealth journalists, you know, newsletter, and it has been all over. So we have tried our best to advocate for rights, because if someone is beaten, then all you can do is to seek legal redress. All you can do is to challenge, and we have done that. Only that disposure of these cases takes long and longer.
Let's not only speak matters of
and we are
justice.
speaking.
Let's not only speak matters of you know, justice and also just speaking.
Yes.
Has there been sensitization, you know, among journalists? Have there been conferences held to, maybe equip them with the knowledge, with the, ethics? Because, we're just speaking ethics just a few minutes back. Have these been put in place, or is there a plan to, speak this?
We have tried to have those, let me call them, okay, capacity building, sessions. But these are they are badly needed. Given that we have, new, practitioners who come in the morning, in the evening, I mean,
at
every
any
day.
time of the day.
So we need to have this refresher, training. But this is something which cannot be done by UJA alone. Even media house, employers, I mean, can complement. You have your staff, you have your employees. I mean, why do you lose if you held one for them? After all, these are the the human resource that bolster your financial muscle, your economic muscle. So I think it is something that should be shared by those by those that employ and then us who advocate. But at the end of the day, we need to have much of it, or many of them, because they're needed. We need to retrain them. We need to resensitize. We need to reshape the way our people, hold their
approach the work that they are doing.
Yeah.
But finally, before you give your last remarks, do we have hope as journalism in Uganda? Do we have hope as journalists that the matters that are affecting us could get better? Do we see, do we look at the sky and see that there is something good, there is a gleam of hope?
Yeah, the hope is there. Those who trust in the Lord shall have their strength renewed. First of all, we shall not cease to talk or to speak. The Bible says, and speak, do not keep quiet. I think in Acts of Apostles, chapter 10. I mean, we shall continue to speak, because it is from that speaking, from the speeches that we make, that positive interventions will be realized. So everything we are seeing today, there is a price that was paid. So what we are trying to do, we are laying the foundation for future. And when we speak and speak and speak, when we advocate, then the future generation will be able to at least have something, they start from, or they build from. So the hope is there. Let's keep advocating. Let's keep highlighting where, challenges are. Let's keep, because this is our country. We want Uganda to be a better country for all of us. We want Uganda to be a better state. Not for journalists alone, but also teachers, but also, doctors, but also engineers. Because we are marinated. We are married with engineers, we are married with teachers. So we need to have a society that is better, which is why we are advocating. So all is not lost. We have spoken, some things have been, acted upon. And I believe many will be acted upon. But they will be acted upon not because we have, we are back. They will be acted upon because we are keeping, the conversation flow. Yes.
Well, should I take those as your last remarks, or there's some message you need to, send to the young journalist or the, the senior journalist that is in the profession in just a minute?
Now, my call is a brief one and precise. World Press Freedom Day, this World Press Freedom Day, we suppose to host His Excellency the President as the chief guest he had confirmed, because now he's the head of state. We believe that if he was around, some of these issues, maybe he would
listen.
He would listen and guide. But we received information that he was not able to attend because we were supposed to have a dinner with him, with journalists anyway. So he addresses us, and we let him know of, you know, what is bothering us. But he did not make it, so that's why we chose to have prayers. But last year we held a gala, a football gala, and then a dinner. So I want to tell journalists that soonest we shall be, you know, laying out, you know, our program. We are likely to, actually this year we are going to, you know, celebrate the 60 years of Uja, and then those 60 years, under the 60 years, it is dubbed Uja at 60. The campaign is dubbed Uja at 60. So under that campaign, we are going to, you know, announce activities that will actually, you know, be carried out until we reach the final, you know, celebration. But we are likely to have a media gala soonest, and then we are likely also to have a dinner. We are also likely to have other activities. Okay. I encourage journalists that let us combine forces and then fight for what is affecting us, because united we stand, divided we fall.
Well, that is none other than Chirunda Emmanuel, the General Secretary of the Uganda Journalists Association, and hopefully, you know, he did, you know, put out his voice to you, you know, the journalists in Uganda, or you, the parent to the ordinary, you know, the ordinary Ugandan, and is a parent to a journalist, because we hope and you know, we expect to see very many young journalists coming up in the country. And to you, the veteran journalists, of course, we expect that you know, you proceed and continue to give hope and also continue to give advice, guidance to, you know, the young journalists. But we will not be exceeding there, as that was what we had prepared for you today in respect to celebrating our day. I can call it my day. That is the World Press Freedom Day that was marked in Uganda and internationally yesterday, the 3rd of May, the year 2023. But for now, we say good morning. We'll meet in the evening for BTM News Today. Oh, thank you so much.